So hello everybody, it's lovely to see you here today. We're going to introduce ourselves in a little bit, but I just wanted to kind of run over a little bit more about the webinar that we will be doing today, you're joining us for, and how this will all work. So welcome to how to effectively engage applicants during results in clearing. Myself, Oscar and Craig, who will introduce ourselves in a second, will be taking through this today. Just as a little bit of a housekeeping, if you have any questions, please do use the Q&A box down at the bottom to pop your questions in. We'll be leaving some time at the end to answer questions, so do keep adding them through the presentation as and when they come to you, and we will answer those at the end. If you have any technical difficulties, if you could let our team know in the chat, they'll be able to help you. So please do just pop down what you're experiencing and they'll try and support you as best they can. And then we are running 2 sessions today. So we did also run a session this morning. If you attended that session this morning, just to let you know that the content will be very similar to the presentation we're doing just now. So if you wanted to go, and then we can send you over the slides afterwards as well, you're more than welcome. Just let you know, just in case you're wondering why the content sounds quite similar, they're pretty similar presentations, just adapted slightly to support you. So we'll get started. So if you want to move on to the next slide, please. So hello, so to properly introduce myself, my name is Grace. I'm a Community Engagement Manager here at the Student Room. I've been here at TSR since January 2019, so a few years now, and I work with our student community daily to support them on making informed decisions and peer-to-peer connections. So basically supporting them specifically on pathways, so that's university, a degree apprenticeship content, as well as careers as well. And then I also help universities and our clients to understand how best to interact with students, specifically on the Student Room, but elsewhere as well. I'll pass over to Oscar.
Yeah, cheers, Grace. I'm Oscar and I work as a client success advisor here at the Student Room. I've been here since 2019. I'll also be working with clients to ensure success in all areas of their campaigns. And as well, I sort of help train and manage and support all our official reps here on site. And I'll be able to help you make the most out of the official rep tool should you want to choose it. I'll pass on to Craig, sorry.
That's right, thanks, Oscar. Yeah, hi, I'm Craig. I'm one of the account directors here at the Student Room. So I've worked at the Student Room since July 2020. And yeah, my role encompasses working with our clients to ensure that we are able to help them to reach the right audiences with the right packages, the right content, and at the right time, crucially as well. So yeah, anything that's sort of queries around sort of TSR packages and things like that, feel free to reach out to myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, back over to Oscar.
Yeah, back to me. So just a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. So we're firstly going to talk about how students are feeling this year. And then as well, we're going to sort of do a recap of how clearing went last year, taking a look back at some of the official rep activity we've had on site. And then Craig is also going to do an overview of the UPP and how it can transform clearing for you. And then as well, we're also going to be doing some recommendations for results day this year with some student engagement tips, and then also some key takeaways and food for thought for clearing 2022. And then we're also going to save some time at the end for some questions, comments, and feedback as well. Next slide, please.
Okay, so to start off with, we'll be taking a look at how students are currently feeling. Next slide. So as you can imagine, there is a lot of worry at the moment. So we've been keeping a check on how students have been feeling over the past academic year and application cycle. And there really has been a real increase in anxiety this year surrounding everything that feels very new to them, including exams, the university application decisions, worries around grade boundaries, concern about what happens when they actually get to university. It's really building up for quite a stressful and busy day on the 18th of August. So over the next few months, we want to make sure that we are supporting students as best we can with general queries and worries now that exams are done. So there'll be the initial kind of slower period where students are going, I don't want to think about anything to do with exams or university applications, and then the worry will start to creep back in. So we've got the initial worry right now straight after exams, and then the kind of more anxiety inducing worry as we get closer and closer to results day. Next slide, please. So in terms of confidence in grades and confidence about how students are feeling for results day, we're actually seeing really low confidence this year in students feeling like they're going to meet their university offers. So we recently ran a poll, you can see here, around confidence and how well they feel that they're going to achieve the grades. The top option there says, I think I have exceeded the grades that I need for my university offer, with about 12% of students feeling that way. Around 30% of students feeling that they've met their grades for their university offer, but nearly 50% of students thinking that they have actually missed their grades for their university offer. So you can see that confidence is really low, and this is much lower than we were even predicting it was going to be. So a lot of concern for students around how they're going to be feeling in the next few months. You know, as we've seen, it's the first formal exams. There is low motivation over this past year from everyone, not just students, after the hangover from the pandemic, and the pandemic still continuing around us. And then difficulties with the advanced information, where students felt confident about the advanced information going into exams, and then actually during exams realizing that it may not have actually been as helpful as they'd hoped it was going to be, and in some cases actually hindering students. So there has been a lot of concern around how they're going to achieve the grades that they feel that they need. There is, you know, as expected, going to be quite a lot of disappointment and unhappiness surrounding results day, with UCAS also saying that they're expecting this from students potentially missing out on grades. Grade boundaries will be a huge topic of conversation this year. I'll go more into that in a moment. And the potential for some resentment as well towards the system and how they feel like it has worked out for them this year. So a key way to deal with this is to really acknowledge their feelings. You know, it has been an incredibly stressful and difficult time, and we need to provide them with clear, informative answers quickly and support with backup options. Next slide, please. So including results day and beyond, there are additional pressures that I mentioned earlier around finances, cost of living, negative press around student loan interest, anxiety, and you know, a huge one being, you know, the loneliness epidemic amongst students. You know, students are really concerned about how to make friends, how they feel supported by their university. So these are all conversations and topics that they are considering now leading up to results day, especially after they've taken their exams. There's always a stage of, have I made the right decision? Is this the right option for me? And they are definitely considering and talking about that now. You can see from the poll here, it's quite small. Apologies if you're struggling with reading this, but the slides will be sent to you after this presentation, so you will be able to look through this and read through these at your own time. It says that around 46% were most concerned around meeting new people and making new friends, but also around 16% were concerned about mental health and well-being, and then also managing their money as well. So there are a lot of concerns around how they're going to cope when they get to university, and you might want to preempt these in your communications plans. So cohesive communications from across the university and highlighting how to access support services, and if possible kind of a proactive initial conversation starter approach can help take away some of this insecurity and concern around where to start when it comes to thinking about starting university in September, October time. The key element here is human communication. So if you are having limited capacity with being able to support students in this way, we recommend seeing if you can direct to external support, like here at the student room. We can help with supporting them generally, or more kind of specific support in terms of mental health support, like Student Space, for example, who will be able to help with things like anxiety, loneliness, anything like that. Next slide, please. So what do students need from you right now? So clear and timely communication is key, and making sure that it's not too much and not too little. So really looking at the content of your communication and ensuring that it is hitting students at the right time. So currently they are just finishing off their exams for a while. They won't want to know anything about clearing results day. But then as it gets closer to that, we can increase the amount of communications as we're trying to support students with thinking about different backup options. We need to make sure that everything we do has a supportive tone. this is really key, empathy this year for what students have experienced and what they're going to go through, and the potential for a huge amount of disappointment this year from students means that supportive tones in all communications will be key. Really good signposting and quick answers as much as possible, so students get the information they need as quickly as they can, will also be a really important part of communicating with students this year. And as I've mentioned, help making backup plans. Keeping your clearing information as up to date as possible and ensuring that it is easily accessible will also be really useful for students who need to find this information. And calming, empathetic presence, as I mentioned, just generally in all your communications will also really help students this year. Next slide, please. So we're going to run through a quick recap of Clearing 2021. Next slide. So looking at this, exams are cancelled in January 2021, so teacher assessed grades were introduced, and the worries surrounding those, including grade unfairness and a higher percentage of top grades, were really key for students last year. Those worries have also seeped into this year as well, around actually how those high grades are going to impact these students who are taking their exams currently. We know that grade boundaries are going to fall somewhere between 2019 and 2021, and students are worried that the artificial grade boundaries in that respect are going to impact their futures. And that is a really key concern that a lot of students will be talking about over the next couple of weeks and leading into results day. There was also a lot of confusion around the appeals process last year, something that we might be expecting again this year. There isn't currently a kind of clear plan on exactly how the appeals process will work. So keeping abreast of all this information and trying your best to make sure that any information you give around appeals is as clear as possible will be really key. There was an oversubscription for medicine applicants and a place swap system that was introduced last year. Again, medicine has seen an increase in applications, and a lot of students talking about medicine. On the student room, we've seen a big increase in the number of students discussing the topics and looking at how medicine will work in clearing and has work over the kind of UCAS extra period as well. So expect to see more conversations around medicine, especially if there is a kind of disappointment in not achieving their place on results day. Students were also using the student room to search for contact details and discuss options for disappointment and changes of heart all the way leading up to results day. So something to consider when looking at your communications. Next slide. So this next slide is a little bit more about the data that we have from the student room, and this data was taken from the 1st of July to the 31st of August in 2021. And obviously results day was slightly different last year. It was about a week earlier. So we had around 16 million sessions on student room, which means a lot of users coming to us for support over the kind of 2-month period, with over 320,000 posts, all looking for advice and peer-to-peer support, and also expert support from people like our official reps and charity partners on site, who were able to give them kind of quick and really informative signposting to all the information they needed as soon as possible. We also saw a 20% increase in our Year 13 members. And again, we're seeing a similar trend this year in terms of the students coming to us around the exam period. We've seen a huge increase in students talking to us about exams and how they're feeling around their exams. And we expect to see them kind of continue on that conversation around university application and grade boundaries leading up into results day. With around 11 posts per poster, so that's the number of posts that they've made over that 2-month period, we're seeing students come back to really have those in-depth discussions with their peers and with experts, so lots of conversation on site. Next slide, please. And so looking at student sentiment as well, in terms of the lead up to results day last year, they were mainly concerned about the impact of teacher assist grades on their grades, which we know that it's not going to be the case this year, but they were also concerned about how they were going to receive their results. So yeah, again, an unlikely popular topic this year, but there is always popular topics around results day that we know students will be interested in, and they are always, what time are results released? This is one of our most popular questions. When will I find out when I get into my firm choice university? Again, a really popular question. So anything you can do to support with clear information around that will be really useful. General nerves and worries. Again, the empathetic and supportive presence here is going to be really key. And as I've mentioned, grade boundaries will be a huge topic over the next few weeks leading up into results day, and the impact that they're going to have on students' futures. Next slide, please. This was a word cloud that was taken from the week of results last year. We're expecting a similar sentiment this year. You can see clearing is an incredibly large one there, clearing results with a lot more students worrying about exam results this year. So we're expecting obviously that to increase and the unpredictability that it was caused. Again, as I've mentioned several times, grade boundaries will be a really popular topic this summer. Next slide. And I'm going to pass over to Oscar.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do a brief overview of what we're going to cover now. So we're going to be talking about how to communicate with students over the results period. We're then also going to be giving tips for optimising engagement with your target audience. And then as well, we're going to be talking about what is a university forum and how you can use it. Plus also some great examples of general communication with students from official reps. And then as well, how you can best support students this year heading into clearing. Next slide, please. Grace.
Thank you. What to expect on site, on TSR and beyond, as I've mentioned, more conversations around applications, but students also exploring their options, contingency planning, and looking for advice and reassurance over the next few weeks leading up into a results day. Questions and concerns around clearing and the application process in general and how to use it to their advantage. Plus, there will also be specific accommodation queries, living in a different city, changing course, lots of kind of the usual discussions around how after results day, their future will be impacted by going to university. So we really do recommend on focusing on brand and community building during this time. So really making sure that your brand presence is out there, that you are showcasing yourself as a supportive university and one who wants to help students regardless, and being a supportive and authoritative voice and providing clear information. Next slide.
Cool, and we're going to also talk about what you could do with an official rep. And I think with that, essentially, you guys will have an account on our website where you'll be able to answer all questions that are posted. As well, you'll be able to update and monitor your own forum with things such as sticky threads. And for those who don't know what sticky threads are, essentially it puts a thread at the very top of your forum. So things like an FAQ, ask a current student, accommodation options, wellbeing tips, and revision tips as well. And then as well, yeah, you'll be able to just give just general applicant communication tips as well. And you really want to try and find that balance of being both informative and helpful, but then also just help them out at the same time. And then, yeah, obviously it's a great place as well to congratulate everyone who has applied or received an offer. And as to why we do that, I think it's a great way to sort of build and maintain your community. But as well, actually, it will really help create a positive perception of your university and encourage discussion as well. And plus also, I think it's great to actually dedicate some time responding to those who are applying to university next year as well. Next slide, please.
Cool. So on the student room, we recommend to our clients who have an official rep to create something called a clearing thread. This is to help applicants make informed decisions, and it runs right from when clearing opens on the 5th of July all the way through to results day and beyond. And this is just where students can ask any basic queries about clearing all the way leading up, and then we can also get an idea of the students who are interested in clearing leading through summer into results day and help support them when it comes to results day. So it's really key for our clients to ensure that they are kind of making the most of this tool. It means that they can read applicant comments and understand those key FAQs before results day and try and get ahead and preempt this communication. It's really important when you're looking at kind of making sure that students are aware of different clearing opportunities, that information is as front and centre as possible, and really easy to find in particular contact details so that they know exactly how to get in contact with you. That is something that students find really frustrating when they are looking through the variety of different websites that they need to look through when making and researching their choices, making sure that this information is as accessible as possible to them, so they can get in contact with a human as much as they need to over the results period is really important. On TSR, we also add these to a kind of a main mega thread directory on site, which we promote quite heavily so that students can then find these contact details really easily. We do create one for every university, and we link out to every university's page, but if they have an official rep, it means that they can manage that thread, and it means that they can answer those queries directly. Next slide, please.
Amazing, thanks Grace. That's over to myself. So yeah, I'm here to talk to you about the University Partner Pack, how universities are able to utilise this tool to create valuable content, provide reassuring support for students, crucial clearing periods. So why is it important? It allows you to engage directly with your target audience. It gives prospective students the confidence that they're engaging with accurate, reliable information, and it humanises the educational journey for them. It also gives your university an authoritative and trustworthy voice on and off the student room. Next slide, please. So what actually is the University Partner Pack? The UP, which I'll call it now because University Partner Pack is quite long. So the UP is an always-on brand awareness and engagement tool, and consists of free official reps or rep accounts on site, university forum and guide page to have roadblock adverts, promotion to drive traffic to your pages, keyword alerts, so anybody talking about you, you know that they're doing so, exclusive applicant research and conversion tracking, and a monthly UP report. Next slide, please. So how important, obviously, is the official rep? The official rep allows you to have the ability to speak directly to students, maximise your brand exposure, show your brand personality, and connect with current and prospective applicants. Next slide, please. So here is an example of an official rep on site. There will be further examples of official rep activity later on in the webinar. Next slide again, please. So what are the benefits of the official rep? You'll be able to see here some quotes from universities currently using the University Partner Pack. They found the tool particularly useful around clearing and the results day period as well. So I'll pause just for a second to give you a chance to read those. Amazing. So what is actually included in the UPP? As a student-first website, we provide students with a platform to come and enter into discussion with their peers regarding their university options. They're able to find information from either other future or current students at each university in that university's forum, as well as having the opportunity to ask questions of their own. So with the University Partner Pack, the advert spaces become roadblocked with the creatives of that institution, making it a really simple journey for students to find out additional information directly from that university. And it also provides a natural journey through the decision-making process. Next slide, please. Here's an example of a non-roadblock forum, just so you can see the difference, meaning that other brands or other universities are shown in these spaces, which means students have to find their information through a much more complicated journey of leaving the forum, going into a search engine, searching for the university, instead of just through one simple click. Next slide, please. Should a student want to find out more information about the university, having explored the forum, once they click on the advert, they'll be taken through to a profile page. Here, you as an institution have the opportunity to provide additional links to be supportive, helpful, and direct them to sort of expertise content, including your open day pages, accommodation information, etc. Again, just making it a really easy and smooth journey for students to find the answers they're looking for. Should the university not be a partner, the profile page will just be a basic with just some basic factual information, as you can see on the right-hand side. Similarly, on the partner version, you'll again notice the roadblocked adverts at the top of the page. These link directly to the university's website, and again, just make that journey really easy for students. Next slide. And then the final piece of the puzzle is the uni guide. This is our sister website. It's part of the University Partner Pack. It's bottom of the funnel, high intent traffic, students using the uni guide to find out the details of the courses and universities that they are interested in. Once they've decided, again, really easy to just simply click on the buttons so they can be taken to either the university's website or to fill out a form that they can submit to request further information, which is then sent on to the university to then send the information through to the student. If you want to find out any further information about the UP, or if you have or need any other further details, please feel free to contact your account manager here at the Student Room. And back to Oscar.
Awesome. And yeah, now I'm going to just talk about recommendations for connecting with students over results in the clearing period. So next slide, please. So before I do go any further, I'm going to just sort of kick things off with a poll. So I've got an example here of a post, and I've got two answers here on how to best respond. So what I'm going to do is just quickly read it out now, and then we're going to do a quick poll to see which is the right answer. So I'll just read it out for you all now. I've just finished my mocks and I've received my results in June. In computer science, I achieved an A star overall, and in maths and physics, I achieved C's, which are poor for me. Is there any way for me to increase my predicted grades before I apply to uni? And if there isn't, what good unis could I apply to, get accepted to, with around an A star, a C, a C? I'm also eligible for contextual offers. So yeah, have a read now for a minute or two of these two responses, and then we'll just do a quick poll to see which is the right answer.
Just so you know, you can also move the poll box if it's helpful. So if you click on the top banner on it, you can move it aside so that you can continue reading the answers if that's useful.
Okay, I'll just close that for you, Oscar.
Awesome, thank you. Right, let's see what people voted for. Oh, wow, 92%. Well, I can tell you that, yes, answer one was the correct answer. So well done if you've chosen that. I guess just a bit of information as to why that is the right answer. I think what they do in terms of their response is that first they actually ask them a follow-up question, which is great. But then secondly, what they do is actually they just go into real detail. And even if you see further down, they can actually add a little hyperlink there, which is a great way to send that information across. It makes it much easier for the user to access. So yeah, well done if you've chosen that. Moving on to the next slide. So I guess to sort of summarize on where the best places to find conversations here on the student room, a couple of forums I'd suggest, for instance, are the applications, clearing and UCAS forum, especially when it comes up to those important times of year, like clearing or results day or when applications are due. This is a very active forum, so definitely have a look at that. Same for both the A-level and the BTEC forums. The University Life forum, I would also suggest you can have a good discussion on there, more about, well, yeah, University Life as it says. And then as well, the Results Day 2022 and Clearing plus FAQ, very good sort of forums to have a look at too at those times of year. And then, of course, yeah, the coronavirus impacts in schools and exams threads. Obviously, the last 2 years, that's been a very active forum to have a look at. And then lastly, the Uni Courses Forum, which I would definitely suggest having a look at, especially if your university does specialise in a particular subject. You can access all these forums on the slides, which will be given to you very soon. So yeah, if you click onto the next slide, please. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run through some best examples on how to respond to users over clearing across all platforms. And this example here comes from a Liverpool Hope University official rep. And what they do here is actually they're helping the student understand their options. So they received triple D predicted grades, and they don't think they'll be able to get into university. And I think what's good about this response actually is that they just provide information what is relevant to what the student is wanting to know. And actually they continue the conversation based on what the student is asking. So yeah, they've clearly answered the question correctly, which is something that is very important when responding to students at this important time of year. Next slide, please. This one comes from the Loughborough University official rep, and it's about changing courses in clearing. So what's happened is that this user is actually asking if they can change course at a specific institution. And I think what's good about this response is actually Loughborough have been very honest, and they actually even confirmed that it's likely there won't be any places. But what they do, which is really important, is actually they provide all the relevant contact information at the end, as you can see here, with an email and a phone number. And I think this is really important because not only will the user who's seen this response see the contact information, but as well, all the users on the site as well will be able to access that information also. So yeah, next slide, please. This one comes from the University of Reading official rep, and it's regarding about helping a student with the process. So they're wanting to study at an institution with limited time before the start date. And with this response, they actually reassure the student that it's still possible to arrange accommodation and finance. But also what they do is actually they recommend registering interest in clearing. But what they also do is actually they ask a question in their response and sign off for their name. And signing off for your name is something that would really encourage when you respond on all platforms. Then what it does, it just sort of really humanizes the account and makes the student feel that, you know, they're not just talking to a computer screen, they're actually talking to someone that represents a university. So yeah, I'd highly encourage that. On to the next slide, please. This one comes from the University of Liverpool student rep account. And what you're going to get, not just on site, but across all platforms, is both students and users comparing certain universities. And in this instance here, what they've done, Loughborough is really, University of Liverpool, what they do really well is actually they give the students other factors to consider. They also refer to advice already given in the thread, and actually they help them make a sort of balanced decision, and they actually offer the opportunity to ask further questions. And this is something I'd always recommend as well, is just asking 1 or 2 follow-up questions. You really sort of want to create a discussion going and, you know, really sort of get a feel for what the student or user is actually trying to ask. So yeah, highly encourage that. On to the next slide, please. So this one comes from the Edge Hill University rep account. And in this post here, it's on deciding whether this user should take a gap year. And it's sort of a hypothetical question surrounding, you know, rejection and missing grades. So taking a gap year and reapplying next year. And I think what Edge Hill have done really well here is actually they just sort of help the student sort of figure out if it's the right choice for them. They reassure them as well that age shouldn't be a concern for them either. And they're not trying to convince them of anything either as well. And I think that's really important. You sort of want to remain as impartial and neutral as you can. You don't want to try and influence or advertise your university. You sort of want to take a step back and help them what they're trying to ask. So yeah, really good example here. Next slide, please. Yeah, here's another Loughborough University example. And I think one thing that I would really sort of emphasize to you guys over the clearing period is to be as compassionate and supportive as you can. And I think in this post, you know, the student was ill, and as a result, they received poor grades in their key exams, and there were no offers, but they really wanted to go to that university. And I think what they do really good in this example here is that they actually empathize with this applicant. They really sort of normalize the student's experience as well and offer really sort of encouraging, supportive words. And, you know, I think you just got to emphasize in these sort of moments that it's absolutely fine to not get what you want. It's totally normal and it's actually just part of the journey. And I think they've done that really well. On to the next slide, please. This next example comes from the University of Bradford official rep, and it's about dealing with perceptions of your university. So Bradford have heard some bad feedback about their university, and they just wanted to confirm that. And I think what they do actually is they provide just positive anecdotal feedback, but also acknowledge the bad feedback that is just part of the experience. And I think they actually give a bit more detail about the degree and the student that is interested in. But they also offer the opportunity to ask further questions. And yeah, I'd highly encourage actually providing any sort of anecdotal feedback. So if you do know someone that's either a student or works for your university and can offer a bit of insight, then by all means do so. Really make that extra effort. Next slide, please. Here's another example. So this one comes from the University of Exeter student recruitment team. And this is actually about being honest about their mistakes. So the issue is about sort of accepting an offer after receiving grades that met certain conditions. And I think what Exeter have done really well here is actually they just address the mistake publicly so others know it's been dealt with, and they apologise and actually ask if the applicant has any other questions. Definitely do this if there has been a mistake. You know, you really sort of want to try and make a positive perception about university on site. And I think Exeter done that really well here. Next slide, please. Just sort of a last example for you guys is actually getting involved in sort of site-wide conversations, but not just on site, all across the internet. And I think in this one in particular, which came from the University Life Forum, where users are actually not sure if they should move away from home or not. And I think what Staffordshire have done really well in this instance is actually they just reassure the student. They share their own personal experience as well. They sort of give them other questions to consider based on real life experiences. And yeah, I sort of cover examples such as this in my Wednesday sessions, which are once a month. But yeah, a really good example. And I think actually what they've done is just sort of share their own experience, which you can definitely do. But yeah, that's all the examples. On to the next slide, please. So that was what to do. Now what not to do. And I think one thing I've really got to sort of make clear is definitely not advertise only what you have available. You really don't want to mislead them or misinform them or come across like you're trying to advertise yourself. And I think with that, you can't ignore the struggle of students, what they're going through. You really sort of want to try and empathise and be as compassionate and supportive as you can during this time of year. And I think doing that, you know, by posting communications that read like ads in spaces where they're not expecting it to be advertised to, it's just not really the right tone. And I think a lot of users and students will see that and get a bad impression or perception of your university. So here's some bad examples to sort of show you guys. So yeah, here's not what to do, and here's some responses which we would not suggest on doing. So this first example is a user saying, I'm currently undecided between this university and another university. Now, one thing we would suggest in not saying is we may be a little biased, but we can't deny that our university is absolutely brilliant. This doesn't answer the question, and I think saying something like this doesn't help either. So I think in an instance like this, you actually really sort of evaluate and try and help them rather than saying your university is the best. This next example says, I'm holding an insurance offer for mathematics and computer science and can't decide. And this response, which isn't that good, is where they say, we're currently ranked this in this table, and we've been given this in a student satisfaction rating. Very similar to the previous example, it just doesn't answer the question, doesn't help what the student's actually trying to ask. They've just given useless information. So actually, when you are responding to students on site, see if you can actually give them some actual insight rather than a rating or a number. This next example, someone's asked, I have a clearing offer to study at this university. And the response goes by saying, I've graduated from this university a month ago and studied for a certain amount of years. There are so many fun events throughout the year, such as, you can start to see a bit of a pattern here that all these responses just don't actually help what they're actually trying to ask. It's totally unrelated as well. And you can clearly see in this response, they're just trying to advertise or market themselves, which just isn't the right tone, especially going into clearing. And then this last example, someone's asked, this year things were not perfect, but there were no distractions and I worked my best, but I still failed. And the response goes by saying, have you considered doing a foundation year instead? You could give our clearing hotline a call. Again, this is just not an appropriate response. You can clearly see that in this response here, they're just trying to advertise and market themselves, and it's actually not helping a student where they actually might need a bit of support and compassion during clearing. So yeah, these are suggestions I would definitely sort of think going forward. Next slide, please. So after that, I'm going to do another poll for you guys. So similar to the first one, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read out this post and then I'll give you guys a minute or two to read out all the options, and then we'll just do a quick poll to see what is the right answer. So the post goes by saying, when do I get to know what universities are available throughout clearing? So it gives you guys just a few seconds just to read all the options, and then we'll see which one is the correct answer.
Okay, I'll just stop that now, Oscar, for you.
Okay, great. Let's see what people have voted for. Oh, wow, 100%. Brilliant. That's, yeah, well done, everyone. It was answered for. And so as to why, well, I think firstly what they've done correctly is actually the formatting. You can see that actually they've mentioned the user. So depending on which platform it is, they'll get a notification to see that you've replied, which is great. You can also see they actually added a link here, so you're just sending a bit of extra information. And as well, they've actually gone into real depth, but also asked them a follow-up question. So these are all the sort of things you've got to do when replying to sort of students on all platforms. So yeah, well done, everyone, all 100% of you. On to the next slide. So I guess just another thing to cover is just sort of a response checklist when replying to students on site and all on other platforms. And I think one thing I definitely recommend is just having a very friendly tone of voice. You know, you really want to just come across as a human being to them And you know, I think empathizing, as it is a very stressful time for them, is also really important. And you definitely must check that you understand and directly understood their question. And by doing that, by asking them a question in return, is really good too. And as well, yeah, obviously signing off your name, as I was saying earlier, does humanise the account a lot more. And lastly, before you hit send, just read the post back to yourself, make sure you fully answer the question and that you understand. But yeah, and things I would definitely not suggest are things such as including unnecessary, irrelevant links where you might be redirecting them back to a Facebook group or something like that. It's not relevant at all. And then lastly, yeah, don't copy and paste. I don't really need to say much more about copying and pasting, especially the same response to multiple users. Just doesn't make a good perception of your university for users or people online. So yeah, that's a response checklist. On to the next slide. On to you, Grace.
Cool, thank you, Oscar. So now we'll just kind of take a look at some key takeaways from our presentation and what we've discussed so far. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, we do advise our official reps to create their Clearing 2022 thread on the 5th of July for questions and discussions and early discussion around what will happen on results day and supporting students with making sure that all of their options are open and getting the information they need quickly. So making sure it's accessible early on for inquiries, but to help students plan for all eventualities is really important. So they may just be wanting to ask, you know, really small questions about, you know, what will happen if X or Y happens. Obviously, it's really difficult for us to be able to say these things, but just trying to empathize and support them and making sure that all kind of communications are available so that you can direct them to different backup options if they need it, will help preempt these queries and concerns on results day, especially if, as we're kind of predicting, there may be kind of mass disappointment on results day. We want to make sure that we're accessible really early on for inquiries and helping those students. Next slide, please. And cool, so making sure you have a presence everywhere as well. So on site, we really recommend that our official reps get involved in a variety of different conversations, and not just specifically about your own university, and that can apply to all different platforms as well, particularly works well on social, but just congratulating every student that mentions you, answering questions about how small, really getting involved in kind of big topics of conversation, trending topics, threads. It can really help just boost your presence and showcase you as a supportive and helpful institution. So making sure that you have that presence and dedicating some time to queries outside of your own institution can be really useful. Next slide.
Yeah, and as well, I think it's really important to help students make a balanced decision and support them in their choices. So as I was saying earlier, remain as impartial and neutral as you can. Don't try and come across as, you know, trying to influence or advertise the university. Really try and be as balanced as you can. Next slide, please. And as well, I think the quality of your response can really impact the applicant engagement. You really want to make sure that you're being supportive, informative, timely, and accessible. And yeah, prioritize all of these in your communications going forward, definitely. Next slide, please. And yeah, of course, please do contact us if you do need any additional advice or support going into clearing and results day. Next slide, please.
Cool. Okay, so now's our time for a bit of a Q&A. I noticed there's one question in there surrounding a context to a survey that we ran. I think, was that in regards to our initial poll around confidence in grades? It was around the time that we were probably talking about that. If that's the case, what happens with our student sentiment is that we run polls on the student room. This is run by our head of student voice and diversity, Mari, who also does webinars similar to this around student voice and understanding what it is that students want and need from universities at this particular time. And this was a poll in response to some questions that we've been seeing on site and some kind of student sentiment. This ran from the 17th of June, so that's last Friday. We put this poll up and we closed it yesterday on Monday. We had 444 responses during that time from students, and it was visible on our site and on our kind of main toolbar. So essentially, when you look on the student room to the side, we have a widget which has a poll in it, and this was the poll in that widget over the weekend. So that's where the response comes from, and all users who are signed in can vote in this poll if they want to. I hope that answers your question. There is also a link to it within the presentation if you want to look at that thread specifically as well. No worries at all. Are there any other questions at all that we can help with? No worries at all, that's not a problem. Well, we do hope that you found this webinar useful and you were able to get something. Oh, sorry, just seen a question come through. Have we seen a greater interest in early clearing this year? We've definitely seen an interest in kind of we've seen that students who didn't get any offers over the last couple of months, so we've definitely seen an increased interest in UCAS Extra. So I would expect that that will also follow on into clearing as well, as students look at their different options too. So I do think that the number of rejections this year increase, and that does mean that there are more students generally kind of floating around the system who are looking into their options and looking into the potential decisions that they can be making. Yeah, we've definitely seen kind of a more general conversation topic, clearing definitely coming into play a little bit more, a little bit earlier this year. Okay, so is there likely going to, we'll go for the first one. What is the cost for implementing a student rep? I'll pass it over to Craig.
Hi there. Yeah, in terms of an individual student rep, they start for £5,000 for a 12-month period, or you can look at the full up package that starts from 12,000 for 12 months, and then there's packages sort of within that. So yeah, if you've got any further questions around that, feel free to contact that hello at the student room, and your account manager will be able to answer those questions for you.
Cool, thank you, Craig. So next question, is there likely going to be grade deflation this year, meaning that the clearing pool will be larger, or the opposite? So with grade deflation, inflation, it's a difficult topic and one that it can be quite hard to predict. In terms of what we're looking at with grade boundaries, we know that they will fall somewhere between 2019 and 2021, which means that they will be kind of artificially trying to bring them back down to I guess what the government called a normal level back from when exams were taking place in 2019 kind of, and with the huge grade inflation that we saw over the last 2 years, they will be brought down. So that means that although grades will be kind of brought down, a lot of universities have been a little bit more cautious in their offer making this year, which means that there is the potential that actually a lot of people were rejected earlier this year and there weren't as many offers made compared to people just missing offers and, you know, universities over offering initially, and then coming up to kind of large pools of students who just get rejected on results day. So I think it's more of a kind of general trickle through the system rather than kind of bigger numbers that will kind of happen on results day. So it is something that we will see, you know, a fair amount of disappointment with students not meeting offers, and I think it depends on where that students are kind of going to as to the situation that they'll find themselves in, whether they go to their insurance or whether it's something that they will look into further into clearing options. I think with higher tariff universities and students who are high achievers, they'll probably be all right. I think it will be the kind of middle range students who just miss out on their offers, or who aren't sure where they want to go to, that will kind of be floating around more on results day and looking into potential different options. So it's difficult to say whether the clearing pool will be larger or not, but we'll definitely see more students kind of potentially missing out on their firm choice offers or missing their grades, which might impact their university application. I hope that helps. That was a bit of a long-winded answer, apologies. It's a bit of an interesting topic. So another question that's just come through: we're a portfolio school that doesn't ask candidates for grades or academic background. how high do you feel the interest is in creative subjects? So it obviously depends on, you know, massively on the institution and like the different kind of creative subjects that you offer. I think generally on the student room, we do see a lot of students talking about STEM subjects. That is naturally a very popular topic of conversation for us, but that's definitely something that we can look into and try and get you some information about how creative subjects are performing on the student room in particular this year. So we can try and get that information over to you and make sure that you've got a little bit more understanding if that's something that would be helpful, Louise. So do let us know if that would be something that would be useful for you. Diana has said, is the 5th of July recommended start date for clearing conversations because of IB results on the 6th or another reason? So clearing opens on the 5th of July. So students can add a clearing choice from the 5th. That's why we recommend that clearing conversations are started on the 5th of July, just so that that's kind of fresh in people's minds for early clearing, anyone who wants to enter early clearing. And then also, yes, because IB results are on the 6th, it's also nice to have that set up and ready so that we don't have to worry about that when it comes to students needing support, and IB students in particular. I hope that helps. Your survey stressed a low confidence in achieving required results this year. A recent UCAS survey concluded the opposite, and 90% think 90% applicant surveys think they will get the required grades to get their offers. Are you seeing any insight into the forums to confirm or refute your poll suggestions? Sorry. So yeah, we do see anecdotally, like from exam threads in particular, when students come out and they come and talk to us about exams and how they think they've gone, you know, a real like mix of confidence, and I think that's why that is something that students are concerned about. Also, naturally, we do have students come onto our site because they either think that they've done really well or really badly. So we do naturally see that kind of shift in kind of how the students are feeling, because they're normally coming to us for a reason. So it might be that particularly the students that are around on our site at that particular moment were feeling down about how their exams have gone. It could be that. I mean, we are seeing kind of a lot of students saying that they're really worried about their exam results. A lot of students concerned about how they're going to achieve their uni offers, a lot of questions around what they need to do if they're rejected. So we are seeing that kind of anecdotally within the conversations and topics on site. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I think with exams slowly drawing to a close by the end of this week, we'll have more of a picture on exactly how students are feeling over the next few weeks. Any other questions at all? No, fab, wonderful. Okay, so that's everything from us. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I will send out the slides. Hopefully it'll be with you by the end of the day tomorrow. Thank you, Craig and Oscar, as well, for everything, and we hope you enjoyed the webinar. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.